Dr. Shai Tubali is a cognitive enhancement expert. He is an avid researcher of consciousness, working to unlock human consciousness and potential. Welcome to the show, Shai.
Hello, I'm so delighted to be here with you today.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. Tell us a little about your personal life, more about your work, and why you do what you do.
Yes, gladly. Well, I presently live in Portugal, in the Lisbon area. I am Israeli born, and I spent a significant time of my life in Germany, but now I've settled in Portugal, happily settled. And well, my main focus in life, you could say, is consciousness, human consciousness, its potential, its inherent power, and how to apply it in many different areas in our life. But that appears takes form in many diverse fields, including teaching and writing in the field of self-transformation. This has been since the year 2000. Academic philosophy involving Eastern and Western philosophies, and therapy and mental health, because I've developed several awareness or consciousness-based methods, which I've also taught and trained many therapists and coaches. And so I'm deeply inspired by a certain inner journey that I have taken for many years, including a 7-year initiation into a yogic tradition. And inspired by all these internal revelations that have proven to me beyond doubt that one human being can liberate themselves from suffering and attain complete inner freedom, I have dedicated my life to disseminating this kind of knowledge, that if you expand your consciousness, if you cultivate your consciousness, that's the missing piece in our ability to embrace all our challenges, both the collective and individual ones. We have that power to liberate and empower ourselves.
Well, that's exciting.
It is. It is.
So, the ability to liberate and empower through consciousness. Do you mind defining each one of those words for us? What is consciousness and what is liberation? What is empowerment?
Yes, of course. Well, consciousness is our very basically our ability to be aware. We have this human extraordinary ability to be aware, to take a step back from our life and observe it. So this kind of ability has a potential to expand, to grow, to become incredibly mindful. And as it expands, it has these twofold capacity. One is empowerment, because it has this kind of ability to experience itself as bigger than all events, all memories, all thoughts, all emotions, all challenges. So it's bigger than life. And that's the source of its empowerment. And liberation, because it's bigger than its memories, its emotional patterns, it has this ability to go to the root of all that and free itself from its own entangled forms of mental and emotional suffering.
Excellent. Thank you. We find ourselves wrapped up in mental, emotional suffering quite a bit.
Oh yes, exactly. And this is because our consciousness is actually quite contracted. It's we don't have it. It's like a muscle that we need to train to have this ability to expand it in order to feel this kind of spaciousness inside our minds, spaciousness inside our psyche. Usually it's so stifled because we are overly focused on just a bundle of thoughts and emotions that keep repeating themselves, making our lives miserable and blurry.
What very human thing of us to do.
Yes, yes. But we've never been taught this art of awareness at school, and that's quite unfortunate. I think that's really the major lesson we should have been taught at school as children. Now we are adults and we're pretty disoriented because we haven't been given that art, and we need to turn to all sorts of self-development teachings and practices.
So I always I'm too reductive of a person. I'm sure that it's annoying for the people I speak with. If I'm stuck in one room for the first several years of my life, that's what I know to be reality. And then if I'm able to walk out that door and realize that there's all these other rooms in my house, then my consciousness expands, my world expands. And then if I can open the front door of my house and realize, oh, wow, it's a big world out there. And then if I can go up in an airplane or a balloon, I can see that there's an entire Earth here, and then I can look into space. Is that to a degree what we're talking about when we're expanding versus stifling?
Oh yes, that's actually wonderful, wonderfully put. Because yes, there is this kind of very known metaphor of someone who owns a palace but keeps living in the kitchen of in the palace's kitchen, never knowing that just outside that door there is a whole palace to explore. In the very same way, we have an infinite inner world to explore, an infinite consciousness to explore, so much to travel within, not just the exotic countries out there. And there is a very striking image that I always use to exemplify that, and that is the difference between being a sky and being the clouds, because we are really the vast blue open sky, and but we are overly focused on the passing clouds. Now the passing clouds, they just move within our space, and still we think that we are those clouds, limiting ourselves to a tremendous degree. So when we experience this kind of spaciousness, we finally have a breathing space. We feel that we feel healthy, and we feel free, and we have finally regained this ability to choose those thoughts and emotions that are truly constructive. But even then, to just identify with them momentarily, but later return to that kind of sky-like nature. That's who we are.
I think that that's so powerful, and I certainly catch myself focusing on the clouds more so than I do the than the sky. Is that inherently how we're wired, and we just need to learn how to break free of it, or do some people naturally just look at the sky and see the blue and don't see?
No, no, I think that's something that needs to be learned, because you see, our very essence as human beings is self-forgetfulness. Because the first thing that we do in terms of our consciousness is that we become overly identified. We become overly identified with the movie that we're watching, the movie that is our life, the movie that is the inner content of our consciousness. So we become so enchanted by this kind of content and this kind of movie that we tend to forget that we are the watchers who sit actually in the cinema watching that film. So we have this kind of distance. You see, there is a certain law that I define as the law of attention. And this law of attention states something very simple, and that is that between every thought, emotion, pattern, memory, and our awareness, there is a certain gap, a certain distance. Now, this gap is the gap of choice and the gap of identification. We don't have to identify or to become immediately one with that thought or emotion or memory or pattern, even in addiction, but we have lost that kind of knowledge. You see, we are out of touch with it, And then that has become an automatic, involuntary step, this kind of falling into identification. So we need to be reminded of that. And for that, we shouldn't, accuse ourselves for being so self-forgetful. That's human nature. That's life is very demanding. Life is all-consuming. It requires our attention, but we have to regain that power of attention if we ever want to be free and to consciously choose what we identify with. What parts of that film?
So I get caught up. Is it okay? So there's gaps between each one of our thoughts. And when I am too focused, I am not paying attention to the gaps. I'm not noticing them.
Yes, we don't think that that there is a gap between attention and what we're paying attention to. You see, it's so immediate. For instance, if I have a certain thought, I hate myself, then that thought can become my reality, but it also doesn't have to become my reality. I have this kind of playfulness, this kind of playground to make my own choice. Do I want to become one with this thought right now? Because if I do, there will be consequences. You see, I will experience immediately, my reality will be colored with the colors of that thought. And at a certain point, I will imagine that this is also my reality, that reality of self-hatred. And I will not even know how to extricate myself, my own being, from that kind of reality. So this is how there is a certain chain reaction leading all the way to a state in which we experience a reality and we've forgotten that we created it through our own process of identification.
Got it. So the gap is, well, it's simply that I am believing that my thoughts are actually my reality. And if I allow myself to do that, then they are, but they need not be.
Exactly. I think this is perhaps the greatest liberation one could ever find, you see,
Hmm.
because when I realize that my thoughts are not my reality and that my thoughts are just an option, and then I begin to realize that uh, reality can be reshaped as a result of a freer choice.
So I figured that out. I realized that, and I have this profound experience that I don't need to let my negative thoughts or my positive thoughts or my happy thoughts become my reality. They're just my thoughts, and I get to observe them and then move past them. I realize that I'm empowered by it. Then everything opens up to me. What is possible? Am I asking the wrong questions, the right question?
No, there are no wrong questions in this field, because this is exactly how we begin to explore that territory. You see, well, I'll give you an example, because I have a certain method called the expansion method, and this method helps people actually achieve very rapidly and very systematically a state of expanded state of consciousness. This means that they are begin to explore themselves as that sky, that vast open sky, and then they begin to experience this accompanying bliss and freedom, no, regardless of the content of their life, of their present circumstances, of even of their certain level of development or emotional maturity. And from that space, there is so much space that they begin to experience themselves as inherently unaffected by all those memories, including deep-seated traumas. So usually when we have that kind of very limited space, we experience ourselves as one with our traumas, as if our self has been shaped by our traumas, by our memories. We are the result of all those past events. But all of a sudden, we experience this kind of space that is utterly unaffected by those memories. Now, with this, based on that kind of gap, this kind of distance, we all of a sudden have the ability to detach ourselves from those memories, and that gives us a greater ability to eventually resolve those memories, bring them to final resolution. So this is the potential of that, because all of a sudden I realize, well, I'm not my past, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my memories, I'm not my patterns. That's the greatest key to freedom, because most people experience as if they're haunted by their memories, or as if they are imprisoned by their patterns, thoughts, and addictions. They say anger has taken over me. What could I do, because I'm just human? So we feel so helplessly and powerlessly captured by these strong emotions, whereas we actually had that choice. And that choice can be tapped into when we begin to have even the slightest intuition that we are that space.
Well, I see immense value. I can see why you think of this, or why it is this ultimate unlock. I'm searching for the language that you used, but I definitely see that. Being able to detach yourself and realizing that I'm not a prisoner or captive of my past or my memories or the patterns or the habits that I engage in frequently. And once I can finally resolve, put those to rest, the trauma in my past, which naturally will follow us until we probably do address it, um, then I realize I have that power. And then I begin to explore myself as that blue sky. So let's just assume that I've done that, that I've moved past a lot of these traumas. How do I continue to expand? Is it asking myself questions? Is it being blank and letting things come in?
Yes, well,
You could tell me I'm wrong. It just
again, there is no wrong in this. Well, I would say that there are plenty of ways to begin to tap into this reality. The most basic thing is to begin to be aware of certain thoughts and emotions, sitting silently. You don't have to even call it meditation. Just sit silently and begin to notice this kind of gap, this kind of distance between yourself and your thoughts. Beginning to realize, yes, I could now identify with it. I could also disidentify with it. I can leave it as it is. I can simply label my emotion as I don't know, anger, disappointment, past regret, and then by labeling it, I simply depersonalize it, and I let it go. So I can begin to finally experience that kind of unchanging axis around which all of these thoughts and emotions revolve. And of course, there are more powerful techniques than that. One of them is my expansion method, which enables people to experience that rapidly and experience that kind of expansiveness that usually you require years of meditation to achieve. And that's the point. Of course, expansion doesn't make that state irreversible. For that, you have to really gain insight into this kind of freedom and to establish yourself in it. But it at least gives you a vision, a clear vision, and that conviction that this is who you are and that this is reality beneath all those identifications and patterns and entanglements.
Well, I think it really resonates with me. I think it's incredible. I think everything we've talked about is so valuable. What has been, I don't know if you think about it as a challenge for more people to be thinking about this, to be adopting it. What is, how is your work being received?
How has my work been received?
Yes, are people do people get it right away? Does it go over their heads?
Oh, well, again, years ago, when I started as a very young, probably too young, spiritual teacher and mentor, well, I had this kind of conviction that if I only gave people that kind of intuition, that kind of glimpse, they would immediately get it and become utterly, finally, irreversibly liberated. And that was my naivety. And then, of course, I had to learn the hard way that people, even when they did have those glimpses, they would return quite rapidly to that old self.
Hmm.
And then I needed to begin to develop all kinds of methods. You see, responsible, steady methods for that. This was the starting point of all my therapy based methods, all the meditation-based methods. And when I developed the expansion method, that was the first time I finally found a bridge connecting with ordinary consciousness and the expanded states of consciousness. And that finally enabled people to, for instance, work steadily and focusedly on their traumas, their memories, because one of the first steps is to overcome our victim consciousness, realizing that we are bigger than our memories, we are bigger than our past, we are not the result of the sum total of our past events.
All things possible through a little bit of maturity, potentially. I think that
Right.
that's great.
Yes. Maturity is the result. I would say there is a top-down maturity and there is bottom-up maturity. The bottom-up maturity is learning to work very, very wisely and precisely on our major life theme, our major memories, the major events that have shaped us. And then there is the top down, which is insights into that spaciousness. And without the top down kind of maturation, it's very difficult to truly bring all those themes to resolution, because we have to have that intuition that we are already free. You see, that we are inherently, we don't attain freedom, but that innately we are free consciousness. And all we have to do is take some time to liberate those themes bottom up. So that's how both processes converge and lead us to final transformation.
Love it. Well, Shai, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn more about you? How can people engage with you and your work?
Well, the easiest way is, of course, to enter my official website, which is shaitubali.com. And this website includes also upcoming events as well as essential information. But there's also, on that website, on the main page, there is a 7-day course given for free of expansion, 7-day expansion of positive emotions. So expanding our positive emotions is also a key to a different kind of therapy, an empowering kind of therapy, because we are saturating ourselves with positivity. So that also is a form of healing. So this is one way to get to know the expansion. And there's also, of course, my YouTube channel containing over 800 videos, including numerous guided meditations and explanations about how one can integrate this kind of awareness into their daily lives. So that's just an reservoir of information and practice.
Excellent. Well, if you enjoyed as much as I did, show Dr. Shai your appreciation and share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. Go to shaitubali.com. It's Shaitubali.com and check out all the great resources that Shai has been talking about today. And then go to the YouTube channel as well and check out all those wonderful free resources that he's made available. Thanks again, Shai.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was wonderful.
Oh, likewise. Until next time, remember, do your part by doing your best.